Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Agent Power Huddle Scripting Fridays. Every Friday, we meet at 8 a.m. and we talk about scripts and dialogues that help you and me sell more houses and get what we want out of various conversations. Today, we're going to cover kind of a different topic because I made a comment last week about us being in a seller's market and how long we plan or will be in a seller's market. And I asked if you wanted me to do a deep dive on the reasoning, and the answer was yes. So that's what we're going to cover today. And then at the end, I've actually got a new resource for everyone that is a scripting resource. So I'm excited to share it with you, and we're going to take a look at it and talk through it a bit and see if you guys will get some benefit out of it. So with that being said, let me share my screen. And forgive my voice, I've been sick all week and I'm finally on the mend, but I just sound funny. So I apologize for that. Okay, come on. Why do you? The computer thinks there's a second screen for some reason. Bear with me. Okay. All right. So today we're going to talk about how long will we be in a seller's market? And we should probably start with defining a seller's market, right? Does everyone know that whether you're in a seller's market or a buyer's market is defined by how many months of inventory you have? And the tipping point is 6 months. And it's kind of funny. I don't know if you guys remember, but in 2021 and 2022, when we had the white hot market, they started saying it's like 4 months, 4 to 6 months. They started changing the definition because they couldn't see a path to getting back to 6 months. But that's been the definition for 50 years. So look at your market, look at how many homes sell, and if no new listings came on after today, how many active listings are there, and divide that by how many sell in a month. And you can do this for your city, your county, your state, the whole country, right? Like here in King County, we have 1.52 months of inventory. That's a severe seller's market, right? If it were 4 months or 5 months, that's a seller's market. 3 months, that's a strong seller's market. Under 2 months, that's a severe seller's market, right? So we have to figure out, well, how long are we going to be in this sort of deficit, right? Well, the things that come into play in doing this analysis are inventory, obviously, but also you have to look at first-time home buyers. And that's a thing that is surprising to a lot of people. And we're going to dig into why that is. But let's start with the inventory, right? Now, 4 decades, in a normal year, builders in America would build 2 million homes for 50 years. So that's 20 million homes per decade, right? Well, guess how many they built in the decade between 2011 and 2020? 5 million. So going into 2021, we were already at a 15 million home deficit to a balanced market. That's a big hole, right? And then you have to think, okay, well, how are we going to dig our way out of that? Well, you'd have to build more than 2 million homes in a year to get back to par, right? So what did we do? Well, in 2021, they built 1.3 million homes. That's another 660,000 home deficit. 22, almost 1.4 million homes, another 600,000 deficit. 23, 1.45, another 550,000 home deficit. 2024 is still being added up, but it's well under 2 million. So not only have we not eroded that 15 million, we haven't started filling in that hole yet, right? No, in fact, we've started making it bigger to the tune of almost 17 million homes. So it's not going to come easy, right? And yes, you layer on top of this other influences from the marketplace, like we've seen downward pressure on sellers coming on the market because they're locked in at 2.5% interest or 3%, right? So we know there's an influence of people locked in at great interest rates that have no interest in changing that. So they're not going to sell even if they needed to or wanted to, right? Another influencer on the positive side is the trend towards ADUs and DADUs, additional dwelling units and detached additional dwelling units, right? City leaders are realizing we got this giant deficit. We need to do something about that. So take my state, for example. Here in Washington State, they passed Senate Bill 1110 last year. Senate Bill 1110 says that every parcel in Washington State can now add 1 to 3 ADUs. And the only exclusion is if you have CC&Rs that prohibit it. Like I live in a development, so they wouldn't allow me to stick an ADU in my backyard. But every other parcel in Washington State that's not subject to CC&Rs, people are jamming ADUs into them. They're splitting them off. They're selling them. And the irony is they think that law is going to make housing more affordable. No. If my house is in Seattle, let's say, and it's a nice, decent house, it's probably worth $1.5 million, maybe more, depending on how big it is. If I build a brand new structure in my backyard, I'm going to get over $1 million for that too. So does that help, affordable housing? Nah, not even close, right? So they're doing things for the right reasons. They're just not doing them based on sound economic principles. I'll give you another example. Kirkland here in Washington, it's a suburb of Seattle, suburb of Bellevue, really. They introduced a new zoning called RIN, which I can't remember what the acronym stands for anymore, but I had a house on 5 acres that was zoned RIN, and it allowed smaller parcels to be carved out than the rest of the city. So the minimum lot size was like, call it 5,000 square feet for a normal city lot. RIN was 4,000. So that meant for every 4 lots, I could get a 5th one, right? Whereas with the other zoning, I couldn't. So that made this house, that was a teardown. Its value was $5 million because it had 5 acres. And guess what? You build a nice new 3,500 square foot house with granite counters and Brazilian cherry hardwoods and all that. It doesn't matter if it's on a 4,000 square foot lot, it's still going to sell for $2 million in Kirkland. So there's just, the problem is bigger than they realize, and they're not attacking the root problem, which is what's on the screen right now. And that is a severe shortage of houses, right? Now, what do first-time home buyers have to do with any of this? They are the only buyer profile that take without giving back, right? So if my wife and I move, we're going to sell a house and buy a house. It's a net neutral impact, right? It's a net wash. But if I'm a first-time home buyer, all I do is take. So I put a more severe or greater pressure downward on inventory. So we have to pay attention to first-time home buyers. Well, the average first-time home buyer is 34 years old. So we should look at the birth rates 34 years ago, 1991, right? How were birth rates behaving in 1991? Well, you can see right here from 78 all the way up to 1990 or 89, they were climbing, and they were still above that. That 15.61 means births per thousand. So as long as they're above 15 births per thousand, that's a lot of people, right? So now it's starting to decline. So that meant for the last, 12 years, we were getting more first-time home buyers than we did the prior year, and had a deficit of houses. So that's not great, right? We're still trying to get back to 2 million homes per year. And as you saw, they're only building about 1.5 million. So are we going to be in a seller's market for a while? Yeah. I think you could easily argue it's like a 20-year hole. Now, could it be shortened? Absolutely. The efforts with ADUs, DADUs, little houses and small houses, there's a lot of things that people are experimenting with and municipalities are experimenting with, but it's a giant hole that we are in. And it's all because during the Great Recession, builders lost their asses, right? And they stopped building. I mean, 5 million homes over 10 years is nothing. Does that make sense? So, does anybody have any questions on that? I wanted to get that information into your heads because it comes up. You'll be in conversations with sellers who are like, I want to wait, or buyers. The better example is a buyer. I'm waiting for prices to go down. You're nuts. That is such a fool's, endeavor. We are going to be in a seller's market for a decade at least. And you can't have depreciation when you have a shortage of inventory. So just keep that in mind, right? And one of the dialogues I love to use is when rates go down, buyers come off the sidelines, right? That's the main dialogue we use right now. Is it's a bit of a surreal market. That's a term that I use, which means it's a seller's market by definition, because we have 1.52 months of inventory, but it's behaving like a buyer's market because of interest rates and now tariffs as well. Well, they're gonna get off the sideline when they see rates dip down. And one thing that you guys all hopefully know, because I know I brought it up before, is we are going to see rates go lower this year because the federal government needs to refinance its debt before the end of the year. And that's trillions of dollars. So that's going to benefit us in the real estate market, right? So what do you think is going to happen when those rates go down? Bidding wars are back, right? Escalator clauses and waiving everything, all the chaos. Wouldn't you rather buy a house? Let's say pick a number, like let's use 700,000. I could probably buy a $700,000 house today for 650, right? Because they're languishing on the market longer. It's hard. It's, all the uncertainty, blah, blah, blah. My interest rate is going to be 6.5. But wouldn't I rather have a 6.5 interest rate with a 650 purchase price that 90 days from now I could refinance from 6.5 down to, let's say, 5.5? Or would it be smarter to wait and buy it 90 days from now when rates are at 5.5? Well, the problem is you're not getting it for 650 anymore. You're not even getting it for 700. You're getting it for 750 to 800 because of appreciation and competition. So create a chart for yourself or a mean for your market that shows what does the payment look like at a lower purchase price with a higher rate versus a higher purchase price with a lower rate. And then have the third column, which is, and then you refi. And remember the dialogue, right? Marry the house, but date the rate, right? It's not about the rate. My parents, I first got in the business, I was a mortgage guy. And I was talking to my parents one time in the 80s. And I go, what's your rate? My dad goes, 13.99. And I went, holy crap. Your son's a loan officer and you're paying 14%. And he's like, you just didn't think about it. So they were one of my first refi clients. But that's how people are, right? They buy a house, they determine if the payment is affordable, and then they move on. Well, there's nothing wrong with having a strategy to refi if every reasonable indicator tells you that rates are going to go down. So before I move on to the new resource, are there any questions about this inventory discussion? All right. Let me show you my new toy. Hopefully you guys know that I'm a bit of an AI nut. And I've created whatwouldEdsay.com. So let's go take a look at it. It is a custom GPT. You can get access to it in the marketplace. But somebody give me a script question.
How to nicely fire a volatile client.
All right.
Is that what I'm doing today?
Nice. Let's say, what is the gentle way?
Yeah. Where I look good and I leave my side of the street clean.
With the least negative impact.
I like that.
What's that?
Yeah.
Firing a volatile client while preserving your professional image is all about tact, clarity, and control. Here's a professional yet gentle script you can use via email or a scheduled call reflecting Ed Laine's relationship first philosophy. Hi, Joe. I wanted to take a moment to sincerely thank you for the opportunity to work together. At the Ed Laine team, we pride ourselves on delivering exceptional service and results by fostering trust, clear communication, and a mutual respect throughout the process. After careful reflection, I believe that continuing our working relationship may not be the best fit for either of us at this time. My highest priority is to ensure you have the support and experience you need and deserve to achieve your real estate goals. With that in mind, I'd be happy to recommend another qualified agent who may be a better match for your style and expectations. Please know this decision isn't made lightly. It comes from a place of wanting the best outcome for you. I truly wish you every success in your home sale and beyond. How's that sound?
Awesome.
Do you want me to paste that into the chat?
Sure.
You can play around with it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah. I have loaded into this GPT every scripting tool that I've ever written or spoken, and just over and over uploading. And that's how you build the knowledge base that it then pulls from. So it truly is like, it's going to be my words that it's providing you, and you guys can use it outside of Friday mornings.
This is awesome. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Allison, you put in the chat, I think, something about a formula. Which formula?
For to figure out the months on market inventory.
Oh, the inventory. Yeah. So I'll just show you the calculation for my market and you guys can do it in yours. And let's do single family quick. Right. So if I do, how many actives are there in the entire county? 3561. So I would write that down. And then if I do solds, I probably have to reduce it from 6 months because it's only going to show me 5,000 plus, right? So I can do 90 days, right? So 4356 divided by 3, right? Because that's 90 days. So that's 1452 a month. And what was the total actives? 3571?
I think it was 25. Oh, you're right.
3561. So 3561 divided by 1452, 2.4 months of inventory. So it's gone up. And I knew that, like the last month was 1.52, I think I said. It's the spring and homes are coming on the market and they are not flying off the shelves. So they're accumulating. That's a good thing. All right, because that prevents buyers from being injured, right? If there's scarcity, buyers don't have a choice but to compete against each other, which isn't ideal for them. All right. Usually at the end on Fridays, I open it up to the floor to see if any of you have an upcoming conversation like Allison has that we just covered. Does anybody else need help with this script?
Yeah, I have a listing, but it is not getting sold.
Okay.
I know it's the market. Like I was talking to the seller, he was telling, Suma, tell me what to do. I told, let us keep it for 2, 3 months, then we can cancel it. I don't know. I feel guilty to say that, but I said,
Is he okay with that?
is he okay? Yeah, he's moving to a different place, country. House
Yeah.
will be vacant. He's paying the mortgage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I preach to my sellers is patience.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the kind of market we're in, right?
Yeah.
It's not awesome for sellers,
Yeah.
but it's the way the market is. I'll give you a great example. This is more compressed. I literally I might have mentioned this, maybe I didn't, but I got an email from an agent who looked at one of my listings that's been on the market for over 30 days.
Mm.
And she said, I showed your listing to my client's friends and FaceTimed with my client because they're out of state and they all loved it. But my client wants to see it before writing an offer. But just so you know, and in case an offer does come in, let us know because we will write sight unseen. You can't get clearer intent than that, right? Like that is a legit real buyer. Does it guarantee it's going to come? No, of course not. But of course you're not going to pull the plug on a listing when you have someone like that who's coming, the following week.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went to their house to pick something up and he had sent me an email while I was driving over there to cancel the listing.
Mm.
And I'm like, he's a lovely man. He's weak. He's extremely emotionally weak.
Mm.
and he's fragile because he lost his job.
Okay.
Moving back to Brazil, and it's just been hard. And so I'm certainly sympathetic. But come on, man, don't make foolish decisions due to emotion, right? So I had to say, and I'll finish this story, Allison, and I'll come to you. I had to say, can you please just let this play out?
Okay.
You can't have a more serious intended, buyer than the email that I sent you, because I forwarded the email to him. I said, this is good news, right? And he's like, okay, fine, but we're going to take it off the market on Mother's Day. And I started laughing. I'm like, okay. So I got to try and get an offer out of this buyer. They showed it yesterday. I talked to her last night. They love it even more now that they've seen it. So hopefully it comes together. But who knows? People, in the end, it's his house, right?
Yeah, that's it.
We have to do what they want, but there's nothing wrong with pointing out when they're being stupid.
Yeah. But the thing is, you have spent a lot of time on that, right? We
Yeah.
don't want to waste our time for,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the situation with this guy. He didn't have a job. He's in massive arrears, owes 52,000 on his forbearance, and that was before May. And it's not, the forbearance isn't approved, and he's angry AF at everyone. And so, and I'm gonna cancel it because I don't need this. He's yelling at me. He's mad at everyone. I called the agent next door. She's an EXP agent, and she goes, "Oh, you listed the guy with the dick that everyone." She said he got into a fight with my photographer, and the whole neighborhood hates him. So I mean, I knew I wasn't taking it personally, but in the future, here's my question. He keeps me on the phone for an hour at a time, bitching about his life. Every time I say I have to go because, I have to get to selling your house, he says, "You're not listening to me," and then he got mad at me because I wouldn't talk to his wedding photographer to photo his house. And that was a half-hour discussion. So how do I set better boundaries on the next time? Is Scott writing?
Yeah. I don't
Yeah, he is fired. I can't, he's taking up time that I could be, dealing with beautiful clients that appreciate me. And I busted my ass for this guy. So I need to, I don't think this is ever going to happen again, because there's no relationship in the world that I would tolerate this for. But I need to, there's definitely a lack of boundaries at some point, because, every time I said I have to go, I got yelled at, and he doesn't own me.
Yeah.
So
so it's kind of an interesting dynamic. And I say that because we go to great pains to help our clients feel like they are our only client, right? This is the one occasion where I pivot the other direction and say, you're not my only client. I
did say that.
Right? I can't invest the amount of time that you require for what could be a 20-second conversation needs to be 45 minutes, and I can't afford that. So the key for any of you in that circumstance, number one, is it doesn't happen very often. And number two, you can't be married to the outcome. So if that conversation ends with you being fired, that's a favor, right? You're setting boundaries or setting free. So, but again, I mean, I've done that like once. It doesn't come along very often, and it's usually
he's literally the worst. And I've had some doozies, when I did short sales, because they were. I decided not to do short sales again because it was too hard on me. I'm trying to help you, and but he's probably the worst client I've ever had, and I don't want to attract this. And I attracted him while I was in the lawsuit, so that's where my vibration was. So, and now other beautiful clients are coming in, and I don't want him to caca up my energy for other clients, and so
the technical term is caca up my clients.
I don't want any poopy energy from him,
Yeah.
sticking to me. Yeah.
Not
So
bad.
thank you for agreeing with me, everyone, because
Yeah.
it's, I
Yeah,
just need
I
out.
probably would do it over email.
Yeah.
Now that I know that's his MO.
Yeah, and he was texting. He wouldn't pick up the phone last night. It was very disrespectful. He was barreling text messages at me, and it just volatile,
Yeah.
And it was super funny when I was talking to that other agent, and then he was calling her names. He goes, "She's a ghetto pig," and I'm like, "She was going to help me." Because I said, "Do you have leftover buyers?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "I love." He's refusing to pay a buyer's agent. He wants to give it to me for only 60 days. And her listing sold in 64 days, and he's like, "I don't give a shit what happened to the next door neighbor house." And I'm like, "It's indicative of the market." So yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I'm out. So
Yeah.
I gotta call the broker today because I withdrew it, and I gotta make it a cancel.
Yeah, you deserve better.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, everybody. Well, great to see
Thank you.
Thank you.
And let me know if you use that GPT, if it helps you. I'd love to get feedback on it.
I will start. Yeah, that's
All right.
very helpful. Thank you.
Take
Have a great
care.
day, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.